US-based activist Farid Gadri doesn't think the Syrian conflict can be simply summed up as sectarian civil war between the Sunni majority and the ruling Alawite minority. With the opposition movement against the Damascus regime aggravating religious tensions across the country, rebels are now calling for Syria's different ethnic communities to unite in the movement against the regime. The Nabt movement is a good example of this. Founded in Homs, its Facebook page now has over 8,000 members. Activists from the network organise rallies like we see here in the region of Damascus to bring together protesters from different ethnic groups, aiming to bridge the sectarian divide. Some of these rebels from religious minorities have been arrested by security forces for their involvement in the revolution, and a group of cyber activists also campaigns for their release. Activists from the Kurdish, Armenian and Druze communities have also joined the ranks of the rebels, putting up posters in the streets or delivering medical supplies and mobile phones to areas under siege by loyalist forces. In this online video, a young woman who introduces herself as Alawite talks about her recent visit to Latakia in western Syria. She went there to support the rebels and tries to explain to members of her community that they have nothing to fear and that she believes the opposition movement is fighting a tyrannical regime. In a post on his official Facebook page, Egypt's President Mohamed Morsi has announced an amnesty for crimes and misdemeanors committed, quote, in support of the revolution. The measure applies to anyone who's already been charged or convicted, all those awaiting trial or being investigated over acts committed from the start of the uprising in January 2011 to June 2012, when the new head of state took office. The only exceptions will be those accused of murder. Egyptian activists say 12,000 civilians were brought before military tribunals during the 16 months of military rule that followed the ouster of former President Hosni Mubarak. 5,000 of them are still reportedly behind bars. Human rights activists have been campaigning for the presidential pardon for months, and the news has been widely welcomed on social networks, although some feel the measure doesn't go far enough and that the wording in the decree can be interpreted in different ways. As Mona Saif specifies, for example, the amnesty will not apply to the many convicted by tribunal courts for acts not directly related to the revolution, and she calls for these cases to be brought before a civilian court. Blogger Zenobia thinks Mohamed Morsi is using the presidential pardon to improve his reputation, as there has been a mixed response to his first 100 days in office. Egypt's young revolutionaries are planning a demonstration to take place on Friday in Tahrir Square to maintain pressure on the Islamist president to honour the promises he made during his electoral campaign. On Tuesday, the Philippines Supreme Court suspended implementation of the country's controversial cybercrime law. A number of petitions signed by tens of thousands of web users had in fact been submitted to the country's highest court, seeking to declare the law unconstitutional. The law, which has been vigorously opposed, is intended to help the authorities combat internet crimes like piracy, identity theft and also child pornography. But it also makes online libel a crime, with a penalty of up to 12 years in prison. Critics say the system will give the government authority to block access to websites and monitor online communications traffic without a court-ordered warrant. Numerous activists, bloggers and journalists have been campaigning online in recent weeks against what they consider to be a threat to freedom of expression. Some are now referring to it as cyber martial law, alluding to the martial law imposed in the 1970s under the rule of dictator Ferdinand Marcos. Web users have been turning their social media profile pages black to express their opposition. And although the Supreme Court has put the anti-cybercrime law on hold, activists say they will continue campaigning until it has been repealed. They're also calling for work to begin on drafting a new bill and for it to be submitted for public consultation. Light bulbs become paintbrushes with a sleepy town as a backdrop. In this video, Finnish artist Onsi Maata gives a wonderful display of light painting, a photographic technique which uses light sources to draw in the darkness.